Welcome to the Authentically Elisa Podcast, reshaping business with integrity. The podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about profitable speaking and how coaches and entrepreneurs can really profit from speaking on stages. And we're going to learn about 4 different types of stages that you can speak on and get this instant profitability. Should be amazing. And today, my guest is Kimberly Crowe, and she is a speaker profitability expert. Kimberly Crowe is a dynamic international speaker, entrepreneur, and co-creator of the Speakers Playhouse and founder of Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel. Having spoken on over 5,000 stages, wow, including a TEDx talk in Las Vegas, she's been recognized by Enterprise World Magazine as the most inspiring business leaders to watch. Kimberly helps coaches, entrepreneurs, and speakers to elevate their visibility and amplify their message by getting on stages and grabbing the mic. Through events like Podapalooza, which I've been to, Keynoting Kamp, Voices of Women I've also spoken on, and the Influencers Cruise, she creates powerful spaces for individuals to connect, collaborate, and grow. And she's known for her motto that if it's not fun, it is not worth doing. And she brings a very vibrant, engaging approach to helping others expand their reach, impact their influence in the world. Welcome, Kimberly. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, Elisa, I'm super glad to finally be here. You are so awesome. I love connecting with you. You've got so much going on and such a vibrant personality. I'm super glad to be here.
Oh, me too. And I feel the same way about you. You have always a vibrant personality and so much energy that you always bring to, especially the Speakers Playhouse. Like, wow.
That's always a lot of fun.
It's a lot. That's a very fun event. And people that don't know, it's this amazing opportunity where everybody comes on Zoom and there's people who have stages and people and speakers. And it's a way of like connecting the two. So you can go there. If you're looking for stages, you can get access to so many different stages. And then also, if you're looking for people to speak on your stage, you can go there and get a bunch of speakers. It's this amazing event that they run weekly. And how long have you been doing it for? A couple of years?
Yeah, actually 4 years. We had our 4th year anniversary in February. So as we're recording this event, it's already been 4 years. I'm super excited.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. So tell us, how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah. So great question. So I, like many of your listeners, wasn't always an entrepreneur. I actually did what they told us to do. I got good grades. I went to college. I graduated with a degree. I got a good job with health insurance, and I proceeded to climb the corporate ladder. I did that.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And I did that for about 17 years at one company. I was in what they call golden handcuffs.
Yes.
And golden handcuffs are where you're making a lot of money, but you no longer love doing what you do. So you keep doing it, but now you're just doing it for the money. And that's not a great place to be. So after about 15 years, which was really good, I had sort of a realization that this just probably wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And my company was very kind to me. They actually tried to move me around in other different positions that might spark my interest more. And after about 2 years of that, I realized that that it just wasn't a match, and we left on very good terms. I resigned, and they gave me a nice severance package. So it was really a good relationship. But I knew that my time there was done, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I was actually in the world of staffing. I did technical staffing for companies that hired designers and programmers and high-end professionals. And so in doing that, I learned a lot about that industry. And so I decided that I would leave corporate and I would become a full-time entrepreneur. And I went to my friends and family and said, what do you think I should do? I didn't really have much of a plan. And they said, well, you were so good at what you did at corporate. Why don't you hang your own shingle? Why don't you do that? but do it for yourself. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. I know how to do all the things. I know how to hire a team. I know how to, run a P&L. I know how to make contracts. I had good connections. So I thought, sure. And I launched a business. And my goal with launching that business was probably what a lot of entrepreneurs have as a goal. My goal was to make $1 million.
Nice.
I think that's a very common goal for entrepreneurs when they get into it. They feel like, I know that I've made it if I can make $1 million. So that was my goal. In about 18 months, I accomplished that goal.
Wow.
And I know, right? And it seemed like I should be really, really happy. And as a matter of fact, I was really miserable again. But this time I wasn't in golden handcuffs because I had my own company and I was making really good money, but I just didn't want to do staffing anymore. I was like, I have been there, done that. This is not fun anymore. I am not enjoying this. It is not lighting me up. I have no interest in this anymore. But now you can't quit because it's not like a job you can quit. It's a company. And you're the one that signed the contracts. And you're the one that has the employees and the staff that are counting on you. And you're the one that has responsibilities, right? Yeah. So I was really stuck. And I left work. Actually, I didn't leave work because I didn't go in. I just left home and I was like, I can't face it. I don't want to go in. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I went out to a local park that we had, sort of a park, and climbed a mountain. We had a mountain called Iron Mountain. And I climbed a literal mountain. And I thought, I wonder if the answers are up there somewhere. Like I'll get inspired. And they weren't. And I was really in a bad place. And so I went back down and I went home and I was met at the door by my son, who was 15 and a half. And he said, Mom, I'm glad you're home. I have a problem. And I thought, great, somebody else's problem to focus on for 5 minutes instead of my own. Have you ever felt like that, Elisa? Like I could fix anybody else's problem. I just don't want to think about my own anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yep.
So I was like, what is it, sweetie? Let's talk about your problem for 5 minutes. This is great. And he said, well, I'm 15 and a half and we're going into summer and I'm too young to get a summer job. And kind of, he was into the, like, I want to make some money and I want to do something fun, you know? And then he said, and I'm too old to go back to summer camp because he was 15 and a half. And of course, summer camp is boring and stupid now. So I was like, okay, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we create an entrepreneurship, a business around what you love doing just for fun and see if we can make some money at it. And he got super excited about it. And so did I. And we were both like very, very happy and excited about this idea of creating something brand new. And so we went to, like any good parent would, I went to Google and I was like, okay, teen jobs, what could I, businesses that a teen can create, fun jobs. And then I put in all the stuff that he enjoyed. And he was really good as he'd been in theater and he did improv and he worked at the ESS program with little kids and he loved reading them books and all this different stuff. And we sort of put all that into Google before ChatGPT. And out came this idea of why don't you be an audiobook narrator?
Yeah.
And he was like, can I do that? Can we get paid for like reading books and like that will be out there and I could like be can I do that? And I was like, I don't see why not. So we decided to do it. And we were so full of energy and so lit up that we launched this business and had so much fun doing it that we started auditioning for books and we got more business than we could actually handle. We just kept auditioning and we kept doing books and got accepted and accepted and accepted. And we had so much business, we couldn't handle it all. And we were having so much fun that we decided like, this is a problem. Like, this is a different kind of problem. And so we decided that we would teach other people how to narrate audiobooks. Like we had to solve this problem somehow. So we went to a local adult school and we started teaching people how to become audiobook narrators. And the process of teaching was so much more fun than the reading books that I was like, this is fun. And something in me like triggered. And I was like, this is what it's about. This is what life should be about. It should be about having so much fun that you are magnetically attractive and things become fun and easy and effortless and spontaneous and joyful. And it was that moment that I was like, I am never going to do something just because I'm good at it anymore. I'm going to
Mm.
do it only if it's fun. And that's where the model came from. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing. And I don't do audiobooks anymore, and I don't do teaching of audiobooks anymore, but I do teach a lot about entrepreneurship and a lot about speaking and a lot about sharing your message and a lot about getting your voice heard. And so all of that sort of came together as this is what I love doing. And when you love doing something, you are magnetically attractive. And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurships fail to realize.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I love that your story. Like, what an interesting sort of like windy road that led you to this. Like, oh, this is amazing, and I'm like, this is what I should do. That's so cool.
Yeah,
So much
we
fun
had a
how
lot
stuff
of
like that
fun
does
that
happen.
summer,
Yeah.
and then eventually he went back to school, and I started teaching more about speaking and using your voice and entrepreneurship. And now what I do is I create opportunities for entrepreneurs to get on stage because I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that sales process. They love doing what they know how to do. They love solving problems and helping customers, but getting out there and getting seen and heard can be a real struggle for entrepreneurs. And so that's where it becomes like, let's add the fun quotient. Let's get you on some podcasts. Let's get you on some stages. Let's get you on some summits where you can share what you're all about and then have other people magnetically attracted to you.
Yeah, speaking such a huge part of being an entrepreneur. And even yeah, like running your business and making it successful, I think. I love that there's so many different ways, which was so awesome. We talk about these 4 stages later. Before we hop into that, I want to know because you've always been a very authentic person in my mind, always, and I was always again, like you were saying, that magnetic energy that you have and how you always have so much fun. So, what does running your business with like authenticity mean to you?
Oh, yeah. I think this is another place where myself and other entrepreneurs can get sort of caught up. We're learning from coaches, right? We're learning from mentors. We're learning from other people who have sort of been doing this for a while because we want to start with a head start. But in doing that, you can very quickly and easily become inauthentic to who you are and who you really are and what you really believe in. And as an entrepreneur myself, I was like, oh, I got to do what I'm good at. And then when I walked away from that and I was like, okay, what lights me up? What really brings me joy? I think that's when I started to really resonate with who I was. And even though I was being myself in my other positions, you're not really authentically you until you embrace what you love doing and you are in that fully. So my advice to folks out there is be you, because really two reasons. First, everyone else is taken, so you might as well be you. You're the only one left. And second, if you try to be inauthentic, if you try to be someone else, if you try to like, if I try to just be like Elisa and do a podcast exactly like Elisa does, then I'm going to have to, if I attract people in and they decide that they want to engage with me, then I have to continue pretending to be like Elisa more than Kimberly for the duration of working with them because you've sort of snowed them into believing that you're a different kind of personality. And so it's much better to be authentically you right at the outset. I often get people asking me questions like, well, I want to get out there, but should I post on Facebook as me or should I post it on Facebook like as another profile, like my business profile? Because I have my personal profile and then should I create a business profile? And I'm like, well, that's too many personalities to keep track of. Don't you want your people to know who you really are? And don't you want the people who know who you really are to know that you're in business? I don't think that there's, I don't, I think it's just easier just to be you. It's just more authentic. And you feel better when you're not trying to be something that is inauthentic to who you really are.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you talked about that, you can you can be influenced so much by so many different like coaches or people that you're learning from. And
Yeah.
it's always good to take what they teach you and then translate it into what makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Right. Like how do I want to take that and learn from it and then adapt it into my business and do it my way. Which can take some sort of thinking about it because, I was noticing this kind of popped in my head the other week and I was like, I feel like there's, I don't know if this is like the right way to say it, but there always seems to be sort of like threatening out there. Like your business is going to fail if you don't do this way. Your business is going to fail.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
this isn't working because you're not doing it this way, and there's all these different sort of strategies and things that people tell you. And even sometimes like with, even sort of on the woo side of things, like, if you don't embrace this side of you, then, only then will money come or something like that. And I find that sometimes it can be so like, oh, well, if I don't do all these things, then, and if I don't do it in the right way, and then that's when you can kind of fall into that trap of not being authentic. And it's like, well, actually, if I just be me and do what I love, and that really shines through, then that's what's going to attract the right people to me.
Yeah. And there's a lot of marketing speak out there that, people will more likely move away from pain. They're more likely to take action from a standpoint of avoiding pain than even walking into pleasure. And so
Right.
that threaten of you will fail if, that from a marketing perspective, it works really well. You just have to, as a consumer, realize that that's just marketing. I have a
Right.
good friend, and you know her as well. Her name is Jennifer. Jennifer came to me one day and she said, if I hear one more time, just one more time, if I hear the phrase, just do this and everything will work out, I'm going to strangle them, because it's never just do this. It's always many different things. And part of that is really wrapping it around your own personality as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I can hear Jennifer saying that as you were describing.
Right?
Think of it, just do this, like as if it's so flippant and so easy, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, being an entrepreneur is actually, quite hard. And there's many things to it. And especially if you're a solopreneur, there's so many different hats. And so, there's no just one thing. That's for sure.
It's very true.
So let's dive into these four types of stages of how,
Sure.
people can get profit by speaking.
Yeah. So when I talk to folks and I say, I teach about speaking, they'll usually fall into a couple of different groups. But they want to make money speaking, or they want to make a living speaking, or they want to make a difference and a living speaking. And there's nothing wrong with being able to do all of that. And so I talk about different ways that you can do it. It isn't just one way. It's not just do this. There's a lot of different ways that you can sort of come at making money from speaking. And it's not all about the money. I know that I had one mentor say, gee, I hope all of you can get to $1 million really fast so that you can realize that that's not what it's about. And I thought, that's so true, right? I've been there. I've lived that. And when you get to $1 million, it's not all that. You have to also do the joyful things. So,
Exactly.
so these are four different kinds of stages, and you can leverage one of them, or two of them, or all of them, and you can combine them as well. But let's look into what they might be. As a speaker, I often have people say, "Oh, I could never do that. Like, I'm nervous speaking, or I'm not ready yet." And most of us have been speaking since we were 2 or 3. So all of us are really ready to speak. It's just a matter of that level of figuring out what works for you. So the first type of stage, the first kind, is a speak to sell stage. And speak to sell is a stage where you would go on to the stage with the intention of bringing somebody into the buying journey of working with you for a program, product, or service that you offer. And for entrepreneurs, this is a really powerful way to be able to get into the speaking world and make money from it. For example, speaking on a podcast, and then letting people know if the host at the end says, "How can people reach out to you?" That is technically a speak to sell stage, because you're putting somebody onto that buying journey. they're finding out like a little bit more about you. Or if you're on a summit and they say, do you have a free gift for our audience? And you say, yes, opt into my newsletter or get my free checklist. And then you put them on your list and then you nurture them into a sale down the road. Or it could be, I have a book and I would love for you to buy the Voices of Women book. It could be a variety of different things. And those are all speak to sell stages. Now, you could be selling the book, you could be selling directly from the podcast, but most commonly, people are just getting to know you and then getting into the buying journey. And that can be a long process or a relatively short process where you are bringing them a little bit more information about you, your checklist or your newsletter or your Facebook group or wherever you've invited them to come, or maybe just have a one-on-one call with you to find out a little bit more about working with you. So stage number 1 is a speak to sell stage. And the way to profit from that one is to make sure that you have a proper call to action at the end. I've seen a lot of speakers make this mistake, mostly entrepreneurs that are relatively new, and they go on a podcast and they talk and they have a great time with the person. But then at the end, they fail to give the audience some sort of marching orders, some sort of thing that they can do next. And whether it's buy a book or grab a downloadable or go to a Facebook group or join an event, they fail to actually make that call to action because they're nervous. And then that obviously doesn't convert. And when it doesn't convert, then people say, oh, I got on a podcast or a couple of them and I didn't get anything out of it. But that is because they just didn't do it properly. So if you have a call to action at the end of your talk, then it can be an effective speak to sell stage. And as a matter of fact, every single time you get on stage, you should have a call to action of some kind, even if it's just to remind people to look at something a little bit differently. But ideally, if you're doing a speak to sell stage, it is to get them into that buying journey. So that's stage number 1, which is speak to sell. And the way to profit from that one is to give them a proper call to action. Any questions on that? Or do you want to move to stage 2?
No, yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I love that. It's funny to speak to sell. Like I never really thought about a podcast that way, but you're right. They're just getting into the buying journey. You're bringing them kind of into your world, and then you really have no idea where that may go. And so, yeah, I love that perspective. Yeah, let's go on to number 2.
Absolutely. So stage number 2 is the brass ring of speaking. This is the one that everybody grabs for when they go into the speaking world, and they're like, I want to do keynote speaking. I want to get paid to speak, right? I want to get paid to share my juicy goodness with the world. And I get a lot of questions about this. And as a speaker, I have definitely been paid to speak multiple times. But the funny thing is that there are a lot of ways to get paid to speak without necessarily having to be the keynote speaker. There's a lot of other ways to get paid to speak as well. In fact, your audience probably has been paid to speak in many of these other categories. For example, if you've ever taught a class and charged for the class, then you were a paid speaker. As a matter of fact, if you were ever a teacher, like a 4th grade teacher, you were a paid speaker. If you ever, I'll give you some examples of other things that I've done. I've done audiobook narration. That was a paid speaking gig. I've done voiceover for e-learnings and commercials. I've done acting, and that's a paid speaking gig if you get paid to do it. I've been an equestrian polo announcer. I've been a murder mystery theater troupe member. Many of them don't pay very well. Some of them pay extremely well. Some of them pay less, but they're all opportunities to get paid speaking gigs. And then, of course, keynoting is in there as well. And there are a lot of different ways to get paid to speak. And the way to maximize that one is to calculate your dollars per hour worked. Calculate your dollars per hour worked. So, for example, a keynote, my current rate is $12,500 to do a keynote talk. But it's not just that 60 minutes or 90 minutes that I'm giving the keynote. It's also all of the applications I have to fill out for the various different events. It's all the travel that I have to do to get to the actual event, to stay maybe the day before and the day of, and probably even leave the day after. So that could be 3 whole days on my calendar just for the event itself. And then on top of that, there's calls for negotiation, calls for contract renewals and review. opportunities for being able to leverage that into other speaking opportunities. So when you calculate the dollars per hour worked, that really changes the game a little bit on how much you're actually getting paid for your hours. So one of the ways that I love getting paid is to do group teachings. And when I do a group teaching and I charge for a class, I might get 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 people into that class. And if they're all paying $100 a piece, that can add up very, very quickly to pay a lot more. And then if I do a speak to sell on the back end of that, well, then it gets to be a lot of fun. So calculate your dollars per hour worked. That's stage number 2.
That's so smart to think about that, especially if you're traveling somewhere, like think about that. Like there's so many expenses that could go into that. And also if you are there for all those days, that's time being spent where you're, not with other clients or not doing networking or whatever to actually, maybe even generate more income because you're so dedicated to this one event. And so they got to pay for that. You got to get that back.
It's very interesting. The one thing that whether you're Steve Jobs or a beginning entrepreneur, everybody has the same amount of time in the day. And you have to think of what you are actually selling that for. If you are selling, if you're getting paid $100 an hour, that sounds like a lot. But if you can leverage that into a different opportunity where you have multiple people paying you $100 for your hour talk, and then you have multiple opportunities to make passive income from that. And then you can do a speak to sell. You can leverage it in a lot of different ways. But when you think about it in terms of, I'm selling an hour of my life for this, what is it that you want to get paid for that? It's an interesting concept. The other way to calculate it is fun. Like how much fun am I having when I do it? So if I'm on a podcast speaking with Elisa, I might not be getting paid directly from this podcast to speak, but I'm having a lot of fun because Elisa is a good friend of mine. And also I will have maybe an opportunity to engage with people that are hearing me on this podcast, and they may leverage the opportunity to find out more about me in the future. So you can calculate it a variety of different ways, but don't forget the fun quotient. Are you ready for stage number 3?
Yes, go for it.
All right. Stage number 3 is an authority stage. An authority stage. Authority stages are stages that you get on that give you authority just by being on them. Like if you were ever interviewed on Oprah, or if you were on CNN, or if you were speaking about finances and you were interviewed on a very large syndicated financial channel or something like that. Those stages give you authority because you were on them. Being interviewed in a magazine would be an authority stage. Being on TEDx would be an authority stage. Interesting thing about TEDx, however, is that for TEDx, you can't get paid to do a TEDx because it's supposed to be an idea worth sharing. And you also can't do speak to sell because, again, it's supposed to be an idea worth sharing. So it's really not there to help bring more money to you. It's really there to help you leverage yourself as an authority. Now, if you can't speak to sell and you can't get paid to speak, the way that you leverage that into profitability is that you have to get the word out everywhere. You have to be responsible for letting people know that you were on that stage or were honored in that way. And then the knowing of that, the fact that you were on that authority stage is what gives you authority. Because if nobody knows that you were on a TEDx, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to build that street cred.
Exactly.
Yes, and put it out everywhere. And also, yeah, it's like bragging rights too. Like being on a TED Talk is pretty awesome. TEDx, either TEDx or TED, is pretty awesome. So go ahead and tell people that everywhere. Yeah, actually, a friend of mine, she was on Forbes magazine recently, and I saw her posting it everywhere in all different chat, WhatsApp chats and all these things, being like, "Oh, look at me, I'm here." And you're right. Like I would have never have known if she didn't tell me. So
exactly. And just by knowing that she was interviewed in Forbes, it's sort of like that eyebrow lift. Like, really? It's sort of like, oh, you're a thing, right? Like you're a big deal. And so that's what you're looking for is if nobody knows about it, then you're not all that big of a deal. You could say like, oh, I'm huge in Japan, right? Like it's one of those things that you're like, okay, well, nobody knows, it's not going to do you any good. So Stage number 3 is an authority stage. And the way to profit from that one is to make sure as many people know about it as possible. When I had a TEDx, I was very proud to have the TEDx, and I got the word out everywhere. And it was actually not about any of my businesses. It was on confirmation bias, which is really about believing the same thing that you've always believed and not being able to change your mind. And so in getting the word out everywhere and telling people that I was on this TEDx, it really made a bigger difference. There were only about 100 people in the room because it was during COVID, and we could, we had the room, but everybody had to be 6 feet apart. And what would normally have been 500 people in the room was only 100. But now I've had 70,000 views on my TEDx talk. And it makes a big difference to get the word out and make sure other people have actually seen you speak. And because it was seen and it was on such a controversial topic at the time, it actually got picked up by TED. So now it's actually officially a TED Talk.
Wow. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
Amazing.
You ready for stage number 4?
Yeah.
Awesome. Stage number 4 may surprise you and your audience. Stage number 4 is one that we don't think about very often. It is a rehearsal stage, a practice stage. Rehearsal stage is a really, really key. And a lot of people will think about Toastmasters as a rehearsal stage, a place where you can practice and get feedback. But I don't want you to limit your thoughts to Toastmasters, because I love Toastmasters and it's a great organization, really helps people who are terrified of speaking get comfortable in front of the microphone, standing on a podium in front of a lectern and being able to share a little bit of their voice. But it's not really great for entrepreneurs because we need more than 7 minutes every 2 or 3 months to be able to get on a mic. We need to be able to get out there a lot more often. So my favorite rehearsal stage ever to practice my talk and new talks that I give are actually podcasts. Podcasts are a great rehearsal stage because you can try out a new concept, a new talk, by just having a conversation with another person. And it's easy having a one-on-one conversation. It doesn't feel intimidating. You don't feel like you have a ton of people staring at you. And it's a way to be able to practice a new talk and see how it lands.
Right. Yeah. That's a perfect practice stage. And the beauty of podcasts is that, usually the host just wants to really let you shine as well, right? So like you're probably going to get some really positive feedback as well. And it'd be interesting to see how the conversation goes as well.
Well, thank you for that. But you are a very kind podcast host. Most podcast hosts out there are very generous with helping their people look like experts, because they're not here to sabotage you unless it's that kind of a show. And I wouldn't recommend you get on that kind of a show to start out. But most podcast guests podcasters want their guests to look like experts so that they can have sort of that Oprah effect, right? I'm interviewing really amazing people and I want to bring them to my audience. And so they're not going to, to trip you up or, knock your knees out in front of you. They're here to sort of support you and uplift you. And so I find podcasts is one of the easiest rehearsal stages to get on.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. Sometimes I've done that, but I've done it on summits, and it would have been a good idea maybe to practice it on a podcast first. Love that.
Absolutely.
And how can you
into the conversation? A summit could be a good one to do on because if you're doing interview style rather than presentation style. Once you get to presentation style, it's a little bit more challenging because you've got to be able to make sure that you've ironed everything out. You may not even have Q&A opportunities for the audience to ask questions, but when you are doing a podcast, the podcaster is naturally going to ask follow-up questions for you. And so you can realize a little bit of what you might have left out or what's not really clear, or in your messaging, if you're using like acronyms that aren't easily understood. All kinds of mistakes that I've made like that got corrected because I was on podcasts and a host asked me a follow-up question. I was like, oh, I didn't realize people didn't know that. But Elisa, I will tell you that we've been through the 4 types of stages. Stage 1 is a speak to sell stage. The way to profit from that is to have a proper call to action. Stage number 2 was that paid speaking gig, and the proper way to profit from that one is to calculate your dollars per hour worked. Stage number 4 is an authority stage, and the proper way to profit from that one is to make sure the word gets out everywhere. And stage number 4 is a rehearsal stage. And the best way to profit from that one is to get feedback from your host. And here's a tip. If you're ever interviewed on a podcast, like I am on this one, go mark your calendar for about 6 weeks after the podcast gets released and go through the comments section, because all of those comments are great feedback for you. Feedback like, hey, I wasn't really clear on what she meant by XYZ. Feedback like, oh, I loved when she brought that up. I didn't really think of that. That all is really positive feedback for you, and you can improve way as long as you get that feedback. And a lot of people are nervous about doing that, so they miss out on the gold of that 4th stage. But I have a secret 5th stage. So if you're ready for it, I would love to share with your audience what the secret 5th stage actually is.
Do it.
Awesome. The secret 5th stage is your own stage. Your own stage. Your own stage is one where you're making up all the rules. Have you ever been to a sleepover at a girlfriend's house when you were young, Elisa?
Yep.
Did you ever go to sleepovers? Yeah. And if your parents were anything like mine, when you go to the person's house, your parents will say to you, okay, now when you're in their house, you have to live by their rules. So if they say dinner is at 5 o'clock, dinner's at 5. And if they say it's at 8, dinner's at 8. And if they say bedtime is at 9:15, then bedtime is at 9:15. You're going to their house, you have to live by their rules. Well, the same thing applies with a stage. When you're on their stage, you have to live by their rules. If you are on their stage and they say, we have 45 minutes, then you have 45 minutes. If you're able to give a gift at the end or talk about your program at the end, it's their rules because it's their house. If they say that you can't give a gift, or you can only speak for 5 minutes, or whatever it is, it's their house and it's their rules. But once you create your own stage, you create the rules, and you can make it any of the 4 types of stages. You can make it a practice stage just by going on Facebook Live once a week and deciding that you're going to go and do it. And that's sort of a stage, and you're going live every week. And that's a brave thing to do. And then you're just practicing and getting a little practice in. You can make it an authority stage by bringing in other experts who are experts in other topics that your audience would be interested in. And now you're the Oprah effect, and you've now created an authority stage. You could make it a speak to sell by making an offer at the end, or you could even make it a paid speaking gig for charging permission to be able to come in and watch that show in some way. So if it's not a public podcast out there, maybe it's a private podcast that you release into a private group, and people have to pay to be a member of that group in order to hear that juicy goodness from you. So when it's your stage, you get the opportunity to create any one of the 4 types of stages. So that is the secret 5th stage.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that people kind of forget about that. And I think that especially this day and age, like it's so easy to create your own stage. Like you were just saying, a live, you can do like a LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live, and you can just do it right now, right this second if you want, or you could like schedule it and invite people to it. You can just create your own, webinars or workshops. Like you can just go ahead and do that and just create your own stage. And it doesn't have to be super huge and complicated or, or too much work. It can be as simple as just getting on a social media live and doing it right then and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it, love it, love it. And I love these are the 2 that it's your rules, which is so much fun. I'm doing right now. I'm going to be co-hosting a summit. With a friend of ours, called Jessica.
So excited about that. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's going to be a great.
Exactly. And Jessica has these amazing ideas about how she wants to run that. And it's going to be a very different type of summit that, I've never really seen before. And, she's just entirely making up her own rules. And so I think that makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Oh, well, this has been so great. Thank you so much for sharing us about all these different stages and also how you can profit from them. I think that's the biggest thing. So hope people are taking away all those sort of how-tos so you can start profiting from different stages in all different kinds of ways. So Kimberly, where can our listeners find you online?
Absolutely. So I run a weekly show that you alluded to in the very beginning, which is Speakers Playhouse. You can go to speakersplayhouse.com and you can register to come to the event. It's completely free and it happens every single Thursday. Starts at 10:30 a.m. and goes to noon. It's a virtual, so you can just join from Zoom, from any computer with Zoom access. And we would love to see you there. If you're wanting to find out more about how to get on stages, how to leverage those stages, and what stages are available to speak on, in whether it's a podcast, radio show, TV show, web summit, webinar, virtual stage, or real live in-person stage, we've got them all. And you can come find out more about how it works.
Yes, it is such a great event. I recommend that everybody go to the show notes and click on the link, or if you just remembered it, speakersplayhouse.com. It's so much fun. And it's also like a great networking, and also just to see what kind of stages are out there, and just, it's with the beginning of getting that visibility that we talked about earlier. So totally recommend everybody going. Super awesome. And to finish us off, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Yeah. If somebody hands you a mic, you say yes. That's our rule. If you're in business and you're trying to get to that $1 million mark and beyond, I highly recommend making sure that you get on stages to do it. And it's easier than you think, and it's a lot more fun as well. So I highly recommend, if somebody hands you a mic, you say yes.
Love that. Thank you so much for being on the show, Kimberly. This has been so much fun. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.